All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday night. Excuse me, it's 9:11 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific California time here, just to be specific, right? August 26, 2025 is the date. Latest activity shows a large earthquake coming in here to the Russia area, a 6.0 earthquake. That shaking things up out there across the Kamchatka Trench right now. Showing up on the majority of the seismograph stations out there. Still, still seeing some aftershock activity out here. I'm wondering if we are not done yet with seeing movement around this area. Of course, within the last 30 days, of course, we had that 8.8 earthquake. That was a significant and, of course, the largest event here in the last 4 years. Look how many earthquakes have struck out here just in the last 30 days alone of 4.5 and above. Almost 1,000. That is crazy. So where are we at here with this 6-pointer? That is going to be... let's see how many 6-pointers that is now. We're building up here. The latest event in the mix of 6-pointers. Nothing out of the ordinary in terms of the multitude of sixes here. I'm still a little concerned, though, that we are not done with the larger scale potential out here. Just due to the way things have been somewhat elevated here. Been increasing here in the last couple days. If you look at the last week here, we've got 54 earthquakes of magnitude 4. This says all magnitudes here, but normally 4.5 and above for the international community here. Lots of 5s, including 2 recent 6-pointers. And some suspicious activity here back prior to the subduction zone. Now, this 6-pointer tonight occurred deeper into the area of where the suspicious earthquake activity occurred. I call it suspicious here because it's back prior to the subduction zone on the Pacific Plate, off of the Pacific Plate boundary here on the oceanic crust. That leads me to believe here that maybe we're not quite done here with some larger adjustment. I think we still have yet to see a 7-pointer. We have not had a 7.0 earthquake here following this event. Prior, yes, we had a 7.4 foreshock 10 days previous to the 8.8 and a bunch of 6s as well. This is just a major hotspot area of seismic activity here recently, and it's got historical data that shows and proves that it can produce a 9.0 earthquake. 8.8, that's pretty darn close, but it did not rupture the entirety here of the Kamchatka Trench. Still, as you can see here, no 7-pointers. The largest aftershock sequence so far was at 6.9, about an hour following the main quake there at the end of July with the 8.8. So, watching that closely here. Hard to say. It's one of these areas here that there's so much subduction going on here in terms of the stress and the accumulation of stress out here. It's a major area that's reinforced by at least three different plates out here, right? You got the North American or the Pacific plate here moving off to the northwest. This is the subducting plate, subducting underneath the North American plate here in the brown, and then of course that's reinforced here by strain from the Eurasia plate. Notice these arrows pointing all towards this area. It's a major region that gets large earthquake activity, quite common. So we will continue to watch that. Also some deeper earthquake activity here on the backside of Japan here, western side, 226 miles deep here. This area needs to be watched here quite closely. I don't think we're done yet with some larger activity. Whether we're going to see another large mega quake here across the southern end of the Kamchatka, or the infamous Nankai Trough out here that could be due for some larger activity here soon. That is a deep earthquake earlier this afternoon for a 4-pointer. Not a big earthquake, but it's the depth there of the earthquakes that we need to watch closely. Yeah, holding steady there at a 6.0. There's that deep earthquake. Let's see what we got here for the rest of the globe. We'll go ahead and check out California here real quick and see what's popping out here. I got thunderstorms out here around Chico right now. Got some monsoonal moisture coming in. As far as earthquake activity goes across the west coast, wow, absent of anything above 2.5. So all this activity out here, microquake activity. There's really not a whole lot of major movement going on. There's a little bit of activity down here across the Brawley seismic zone. This is the extensional boundary here between the North American and the Pacific Plate, kind of a spreading center here. There's volcanic activity that stirs up here around the Salton Sea Buttes. That is seeing a little bit of microquake movement, nothing big, but we will continue to monitor that. Up in the Washington area, a couple earthquakes around Mount St. Helens. Let's go check out the Mount St. Helens seismograph station here real quick. See what we have on this wonderful Tuesday evening. By the way, tremor activity, look at that, has completely died down there with only 6 epicenters of tremor across the Oregon coast area. Mount St. Helens here. Let's check this out up across the summit region. We've had a little bit of swarming going on. Not swarming, but earthquake activity. Just a few here and there. What looks like some further activity out there in the last few hours. This is an amplitude adjustment. They've squashed the data out here for some reason. That is a legit earthquake, right? At 1420 or so. Was that reported? Across Mount St. Helens? You guys see that reported? I do not. They're showing a 0.2 and a 0 at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock local time there. This earthquake back over here occurred this afternoon. That is a legit earthquake, and with the amplitudes being squashed out here, this is probably a little bit larger than what it looks like. I'm guessing maybe around a 2 range. How come this didn't get reported? That amplitude adjustment looks like it's been readjusted here in the last few hours with this most recent UTC time. There is some earthquake activity here. Notice there on the graph. That's at Mount St. Helens. Over across Mount Rainier. Let's go check out this local seismograph station here as well. There's earthquake activity out there. Maybe some ice quakes, okay? Maybe some ice quakes, but not all of those are ice quakes. There's definitely a few earthquakes out there as well, including this one. A well-defined earthquake about 4:30 in the morning. That's well-defined. Was that reported up here across Mount Rainier? Negative. Nothing being reported out here. So there's definitely some earthquake activity that is being overlooked. Maybe not overlooked, but just not reported here. Maybe it's not important. There's no major uptick going on out here, but there is still earthquake activity across at least 2 volcanoes there along the Cascades. Across Yellowstone National Park, a couple earthquakes outside the Hebgen Lake area. Let's go see what we got here across the Yellowstone real quick. See if there's any swarm going on out here. I've been suspicious as of late here in terms of the reporting accuracy on the government agency out here. That just tends to they tend to overlook a lot of stuff out here. There's not a lot of earthquake activity at Yellowstone right now. The thicker reading that's showing up, that is the 6-pointer just coming in now into the Russia area. That picked up the P wave, and of course the S waves will come in as well. So that's what we're seeing here in the last 20 minutes or so. Minimal earthquake activity though across the last 24 hours, but there has been a few, and most of those over around the Hebgen Lake area, where a couple smaller magnitude earthquakes being reported there on the map. Texas area, Oklahoma, pretty active out here. We got one earthquake out there in Missouri, a 2.2. This morning, outside the New Madrid seismic zone, 10 miles deep underneath this area. When the North American plate moves out here, we do have to watch these other areas that have not had any major earthquake activity in hundreds of years that are still active. So we do got to watch the East Coast, got to watch areas of the New Madrid seismic zone. For now, those areas are quiet, but they're not always going to stay that way. There's that 5-pointer up here in the Aleutian Trench way earlier this morning, a 5.1. Not a whole lot of newer activity up there across the Alaska area for now. Mainly smaller microquake prevailing across that region. As far as anything else around the globe goes, got that 5.2 out here across the Drake's Passage area, although that is, let's see here, it's southwest of where the 7.5 struck here back on the 21st. A little odd activity going on down here. I mentioned that there when the 7.5 came in there back on the 21st. That this is in a odd location off of the plate boundary into the oceanic crust here for a large earthquake. And now we got, some further activity away from the area off of the plate boundary as well. So this is a very interesting region. It does look like something's brewing down here. Where it's leading to, we'll have to watch, but it's definitely some interesting activity. If this 7.5 occurred on the plate boundary up north or south, I'd be like, okay, well, that's normal. That's typical. But this earthquake of a 7.5 of large magnitude occurred away from the plate boundary on the oceanic crust here. So it's just odd to see that big of an earthquake in that zone, and some further activity there tonight. New Zealand, what do we got down there? 3.3 South Island, just south of the Alpine Fault. Got some 5 stirring up here around Papua New Guinea area, and also the Tonga region. Australia's seen some activity as well. This region does look like we're starting to see some elevated activity. Watch areas of interest, and that includes, of course, New Zealand. Quiet zone here around the Vanuatu area. Things are on the uptick. Very obvious out here. Some movement north there into the China area as well. Big old cluster of earthquake activity around the Middle East and Mediterranean. 2.9 out there around the Turkey area. That's where they had that 6-pointer there a couple weeks back. It does look like the plates are starting to move out here. And I'm thinking the reason being, I don't think it's coincidence, is because of the proton events that are still stirring up out here. We've been getting hammered here in the last 2 days with some heavy protons from the sun. I do believe that there is a relationship between the elevated plate movement and the protons that are affecting the Earth right now. Mainly across the northern, but also in the southern areas as well. We're seeing that proton activity stir up. And I think, it's a theory anyway that there is some relationship between that. Whether it's just a flare or a CME blasting into the planet, or a coronal mass, or not a coronal mass ejection, but a coronal hole, with the magnetic lines there just kind of blasting off from the sun in a straight fashion from the coronal hole. That can have an effect as well. I do believe the sun plays a major part in producing elevated conditions here on the planet. There's been no strong flares right now, but the proton events are definitely still stirring up right now. And I think that's why we're seeing elevated activity out here across the planet. Things are on the move. And when things are on the move, bad things can happen out here. We can see some large earthquake activity. So let's take a look here at the sunspot areas that we're watching. There is a huge group here on the eastern limb. 141.99 here. That's pretty much equator center here of the sun. That's going to be lining up with the Earth completely pretty soon. Looking at the magnetogram image of the sunspots, not really too concerned with this one, but it's this group back here, this one as well. I think we're going to see some stronger flares here in the days ahead. I keep saying that, but we're getting closer. These sunspots are looking a little bit more ominous. They're approaching the a region here where things will be most certainly geo-effective. Should we get any massive CMEs from any of these sunspots with a large solar flare. That is very bright. Look at these magnetic arches there, just all over the place. All it takes there is just an increase in the magnetic disturbance there of those sunspots, and we could see a large flare. X-flare activity is elevated. I think there's probably about at least a 15% chance here for X-flare. M-flare around 60 to 75% chance. Proton event is still elevated at 95% chance. Of course, we're still getting bombarded with protons, and therefore we're seeing that elevated earthquake activity globally. I mean, we're definitely noticing an uptick out here, not just in one specific area, but pretty much all over the planet, except for California and the West Coast. They've been kind of quiet out there. As far as any major auroras in the forecast, that is not happening yet. But this the rest of this week and coming into this weekend could be interesting here. We'll have to watch this area of interest with those massive sunspot regions out there. All right, let's see what else we got. I want to look at Hawaii real quick because I've noted there is some earthquake activity stirring up out there. This is a little bit more elevated than normal. In fact, some earthquake activity outside of the Mauna Kea area. 2.3 and a 2.2, about 10 miles underneath this region. Some up around the western side here of Mauna Loa. Got a lot of earthquake activity down here across the Kilauea Volcano and south as well. So this is above normal average, the typical daily activity here. So let's see what's going on here with the deformation data across Kilauea Volcano. You got to remember when the Pacific Plate moves, that can alter things down below the hotspot area that Hawaii is. Still sitting at an orange and watch level. Deformation data shows that we're going back up here. Notice a little bit of stationary tilt here. This is electronic tilt and Kilauea at the Kilauea Summit and East Rift Zone. This shows inflation, but there's something going on here, a little bit out of the norm. And I say the norm because 31 episodes here since December of last year have been the norm, where it leads up to each time to an eruption. It pauses there for a little bit as it inflates, eruption, deflation, which is during the eruption, and then goes back up and up and up and up and down. But this here is a little bit altered in terms of the inflation going on. Not a huge amount, but notice a little bit of deflation going on at an early stage. But now we're starting to go back up. So we'll continue to watch that. Like I say, there's definitely what looks like some movement going on here across the Hawaii area that's taken place. Got to watch this area. Of course, Mauna Loa has seen some recent activity. Mauna Kea, obviously, much longer. But we'll continue to watch that. There's the S wave showing up there across Southern California right now from that 6-pointer there in Russia. Excuse me. All right, quick glance at the Storm Prediction Center. Got thunderstorm activity here overnight along the west coast. There's still thunderstorms out here across Chico. It's crazy that they're not even showing that. I'll show you guys the windy model here real quick. Got storms just outside of my neck of the woods here. In Northern California, not showing a whole lot of lightning on the map, but there definitely is. If you look here, well, there we go. It took them a little bit to show up. I knew I heard some thunder and whatnot, but there is quite a bit of lightning and thunder out here with this little storm. Not really expecting too much here, but kind of moving off to the east here. Dying out as well, but we'll kind of watch that overnight and see how things play out. Either way, it's kind of nice to see a little bit of moisture in the air for sure. Just got a lightning notification here next to me. That is next to me in terms of proximity with that storm. Let's go ahead and check out the numerical models here for the height and wind. This tells us where maybe some tropical systems are. Looking at the Gulf, east coast of the United States, I don't see anything coming in here, which is good news for now. A little bit of moisture there across Southern California from a dissipating tropical system there. It looks like towards the end of August, but nothing major going on as far as that goes for now. But we'll continue to watch this area. A lot of deeper activity here. Man, that's got to be putting strain here across the Nankai Trough. We do need to watch that closely. It's a major subduction zone that has experienced quite a bit of swarming here this year. No megaquake, but it does have potential across the Nankai Trough here. Kumano Ridge, Nankai Trough area. Last series of large megaquakes happened in 1942 and 1944, so we may be coming up here for some larger movements soon. But for now, the largest and latest quake here in the last 24 hours goes to that 6-pointer. Earthquake Kamchatka area, maybe that's not done either. Possible we could see some larger activity down here. All right, folks, have a good one. We will catch you guys out here for the Wednesday morning update. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Take care and stay safe out there.